Welcome back. Today we have Adriana Locke with us, and so excited to have her here. She has so many fun series that you guys will not want to miss out on, and I'm going to ask her all the questions about all her good series and books today. So welcome, Adriana. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I just turned 40, which I feel like is an important thing at this point in my life. Like, I don't know what that means exactly, but here we are. I have 4 teenage boys, and I am married to, I would say my high school sweetheart, but I actually started dating him when I was 14. So I was in junior high school. And we live in the Midwest and have some dogs and cats, and I cook a lot. I'm in my kitchen. I always say that I'm always in the kitchen. I think I write my books in my kitchen at this point.
Okay, that's one of the things I loved about you. I follow you on Instagram, and you posted something one time. You're like, I have something cooking. I'm messing with a book on the computer, and you had dogs and kids underfoot. And I was just like, I identify with that so hard right now. I also cook a lot, always in my kitchen, always messing with a book, always reading a book, always listening to a podcast, multitasking, although I shouldn't, probably not doing good at all those things at once, but you know how it is. So that is awesome. How did you get started writing? How was this for you?
So I've always been a reader, and I've always sort of written things. And I thought that it was just me because my grandmothers both read books, and my mom didn't when I was growing up, but she seemed to have, kind of started reading when I got older. But I always thought it was just me. My mother passed away last year. And I'm going through her things, and I find all these poems. And I told one of my mom's sisters, I'm like, I have all of these poems in their grandma's handwriting. She must have like copied people's poems, you know? And one of my aunt tells me, your grandmother wrote poetry, and no one ever thought that maybe that would interest me. So I like to think now that I have that little tidbit of information that, it's in my DNA. But
yes. Yes. Wow.
But I didn't start writing romance novels until I was in my mid-30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm turning 40 next month. So we got to be around the same age, probably graduated the same year.
99.
And I was 2000. So, yeah, okay. So, mid-30s, you started writing. Mm-hmm. So you've written a lot of amazing books in just 5 years.
Wow. I think I just hit last week or the week before, it was 7 years. So I think I was 30. Well, I don't math well, but 33 or something when I started writing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then we talked a little about that. You said your Landry Family was your first series. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. Okay. So where do you get your inspiration from?
All of my, I have a few standalones that are, just mostly one couple, but I'm sort of, I would say known, but I hate that word, but you know what? People associate me, I guess.
Oh, you are known. Have you ever looked yourself up on TikTok?
No, I would be terrified to do that.
It's a good thing. I see you everywhere. And one of the things, my favorite things that I like to do with my authors is I always say, hey, can you send me a short list of what you're reading right now? And your name pops up more often than not.
Really?
Yes.
That surprises me. That makes me so happy.
You are loved. You are so loved in this community.
I love this community. It really feels like a place that I was always meant to be. I think once I started having kids and I started reading romance again, because I sort of had drifted away from that, I really felt like I found where I belong. Like I found the piece of me. I think, you are who you are growing up, and then you start having kids, or this was true for me anyway. You start having children and building a family, and you sort of lose parts of yourself in that process, right? And I felt like when I found the book community, the indie book community specifically, I was like, this is where I belong. I finally found where I belong.
I just read a book recently. I cannot remember which one it was, but I talked to the author about it. And, you know what it was? It was Jamie Brenner's Blush. And that was something she said in the book was her mom said, you can't be a part of this book club. It was like to a 14-year-old daughter. And she's like, but come on. And she wanted to admit, I've been sneaking and reading all your books with you. And the mom's like, you don't belong here. And she's like, but this is the only place I ever felt I belonged. And I was like, oh. And I think that's so true. How many of us started out sneaking our mom and dad, or not dad probably, but maybe, I don't know, our mom's romance books. And, you know, it's so funny that, I mean, such a treasure that you found your grandmother's poems, because that's such a beautiful legacy. They didn't think to maybe talk about it with the author in the family.
I was like, really? No one? Never occurred to none of you, but it didn't.
Wow. It's so cool. Like maybe you could put them in a little book or something and publish them.
It would be really fun. I think that I'm not there emotionally yet, but I would, it's crossed my mind to find a way to honor her like that. I have one framed by my kitchen sink, and it's a little poem that she wrote about to her daughter. She had 3 daughters, my grandmother, and about washing the dishes and how upset it made her when the sink was full of dishes and everyone lived here and nobody bothered to do the dishes, which, I mean, I relate to every day. So I had
that as a mom.
right? I was like, this is a problem that transcends generations.
This is true. And dishwasher or not, they still put it in the sink.
Yep, for sure.
Yep, I feel that. So let's talk about some of your series, because you have, like, I swear you're a machine. You have so many good books coming out. And if you guys love a good series to latch onto, because who likes to watch a show on Netflix and then there's no other episodes? It's like finding a good book and there's no other books in the series. But if you're like me and you're like, give me all the series, then, you know, Adriana has you on Locke. Did you see what I did there?
Well played.
Well played. I always say that, and now it like is so fitting for you. So you got your Exception series. That was probably one of your first ones, because that was 2014, 2015. And then you've got your Landry family, which I read that one. I read the first one that you sent, and that was amazing. I can't wait to read more. And you've got your Gibson boys. You've got your Dogwood Lane, your Mason family, which I think I have this one right here. And you've got your newest. Is Honey Creek going to be a series?
Maybe. We're still kind of looking at that. Right now, it's just a complete standalone. But my heroine has a brother and sister that would be fun to explore. So I'm sort of toying with that idea on the side. So many books, so little time.
Right. So many ideas. I always thought, like, I could write all these books, but I'll run out of ideas eventually. And I'm like, I don't think that's how it works.
No,
I think they piggyback onto each other. Awesome. And then you've got some standalones. You've got some great standalones. And wow. So you, for somebody who has just been writing for a handful of years, you've really got this down. I mean, you've got some good stuff coming out too. In October, you have 907 for Keeps Way. You have Resolution coming out, another Mason family in October, and Sweet, another Landry family coming out. How do you keep track of all your characters? What's your way to keep track and organize those?
It's really interesting because when I first started writing, I always worried about that I would forget. And so I would write things down, and another author suggested that I do that right away. So we have like, my assistant calls it Wiki Locke, and we keep detailed lists of all of my characters. Even if they just pop up and say hello somewhere, we have that written down. But I don't typically have to go back and look too much, because when I write a character, when I create them, it's like a real person. So it's like I'm going back to a family reunion and, oh, there's Lincoln Landry, who always is in my head and wanting to pop up in every book that I write. Or Crew Gentry from Sacrifice. Like, I just remember what they looked like and how they spoke and what they liked, because they're real to me, which makes me probably sound a little crazy, but that's the way it works.
Do you ever have this like division of like motherhood in real life and your characters, and like you're in complete writing mode, and then you have to stop to do something as a mom, and you're like, I can't make this shift right now?
I'll be writing like a really like heated scene, and then my children come up and they're like, "What's for dinner?" Well, okay, so I was writing Relentless, which is the book that I just put out in early September, and one of my children, my 15-year-old, kept coming in my office and literally driving me crazy. And so I said, listen, I have to get this finished. I'm on a deadline. You are going to have to stay out of my office. So I put a note on the outside of my office. My office is like French door, so it has glass, like partitions. And I put a note that says, I am writing, unless this house is burning down, do not bother me. And I look up a little while later and his face is smashed against the side of the door and he's like trying to like, mime out something to me. Like it reminds me of like the girl on Waterboy when she, and I'm like, you are so missing the point right now.
Yes.
So yeah, that happens a lot.
Oh my gosh. So that's crazy. Speaking of fires, I did read that you did have a fire. Did you completely lose everything?
We did. And I was the only thing that really was not good about it, but I'm grateful for. I was the only one home when it happened, and it was right before Christmas. And I was having some health issues, and my bedroom was on the very top. Our house had kind of like 2 stories and then like a half story. Mm-hmm. And my bedroom was on the half story, on the tip top. The fire broke out on the 2nd story. And if I had went to bed, like the kids went to school, and I'm going to bed, I was exhausted. And I thought, no. And I called actually an author friend of mine, S.L. Scott, and we were talking. And if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be here. I think the firefighters, the carbon monoxide would have got me. I never would have woke up. So It was not, but I made it, and it's fine. And everything happens for a reason, I suppose. And here I am.
Did you have to buy like everything all over and completely start over? And this is right before COVID too, right?
Yeah.
So when people like to say 2020 was the worst year ever, you're like, knock, knock, it was 2019.
Oh, for sure. So in a matter of just a few months, my house burnt down. Our dog got ran over because we ended up having to stay in an apartment right before Christmas, and our dog got freaked out because it didn't know where we were, ran into the street. Someone broke into my car on Christmas Eve and stole things out of my car. Like the very few things that I had left got stolen. And then my mom got diagnosed, like her cancer became terminal, and I had to have surgery. And then COVID happened. This was from December to March. And so I feel like
you gotta be still healing from this. That is like 3 decades of trauma in 3 months.
I feel like there will be a time in my life where I will get to settle down and it will all hit me and I'll have to see a therapist. But I think I've been so busy since then that that hasn't happened. But writing is a great, release, and it's a great way of working through trauma and sort of fun. It's my happy place. So I think I am so thankful that I'm able to keep writing and doing what I love to do.
Well, I am so sorry you went through all of that. And I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. And all I can say is thank you. I mean, you have no idea how much you have made books for people in such a difficult time to escape to. I think that's one thing we take for granted. We can sit down and, grab a great book and kind of lose ourselves for a little bit, and we can read a book. I can almost read a book in one sitting. I'm an animal like that. And then we forget that was like 2 years of someone's life to write that book for us. And they're going through stuff too. And writers write to escape and readers read to escape. And books can be such a great form of escape when times are tough. So thank you for doing that for us. And even in a hard time when that had to have been extremely hard, especially on your kids too.
For sure.
They doing okay?
My kids are really resilient, and they are. That we moved. We live in Ohio now, so we've changed schools, and we've had a lot of change. But your kids are stronger than you think, and you're stronger than you think. And I think that that's one takeaway from all of this. And kind of, it would be easy for me not to share things like this with people. I like on social media just to always be positive and to share happy things and things that make me smile. But I think sometimes when things happen to you, I think a lot of readers look at authors and they think that we live in some other dimension where things are always happy and romantic and good. And, we all struggle. Like everybody struggles. Everybody has adversity. We're all going through it. And so it's just nice to be able to relate to people and to, you know, we may not be going through the same thing, but we're all going to make it. We just have to hold hands and get through stuff together, you know?
Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you're here and healthy and safe. And wow, we would not even be having this conversation. Crazy. So you are I forgot to mention this, by the way. She's a really big deal. She's a USA Today, Washington Post, Amazon. No, don't you say no. You are.
Totally not.
She's being, you know, but it's true. USA Today, best-selling author, Washington Post, Amazon charts. She's got it all. So your bio says you love books, flawed bad boys, and you live in the Midwest with your husbands, 4 sons, and 2 dogs. So, okay, let's talk about these bad boys because you write some really awesome books about these. So, what's your favorite series right now? Which I always hate asking authors this, but I have to do it. Who's your favorite child?
My favorite book series right now.
Yes.
That I always like the one that I'm writing. And so right now I'm writing the Mason family series. Relentless is the one I just finished, or the one I just published, I suppose. Yep. And it was my favorite book in that series. I love Oliver. I love a good office romance. Until I wrote Wade, who is the third brother in the lineup, but he's the last book. And he is so grumpy and so like not into this romance stuff. He was so fun to write. I love a grumpy hero. Love them.
I do too. When they're too happy, I'm like, why are you like this? Why are you always riding a unicorn on a rainbow? Give me the dysfunction.
He is definitely a little dysfunctional. So he was so fun to write. But I am also getting ready to go back into my Landry family series, which is my first family series. They are my babies. They really feel like going home to me. And so I am excited to meet them again and to get to experience that.
Did you lose any of your writing or books in your fire?
I got my computer out, which had all of my files. So I lost like my notes. I always kept these like, I have a legal pad for everything. My life is in legal pads. And I always kept the legal pads of my notes and things like that. And those are all gone, which
you were able to go in your office and get those out when the
fire
grabbed
broke out? My purse when the fire broke out. I had to leave. The police officer was like, you have to leave. And I'm like, I can't leave. And I grabbed my purse, and my purse was sitting by my desk, and my office was right as you come into the house. So when I went to grab my purse, I grabbed my MacBook. They were sitting together. So yeah.
How did you know it was on fire? Did you smell it, or did the alarms go off? What happened?
I had heard we were in a snowstorm, and my kids had a delay for school, and I thought that I heard the street scraper. You know, they go by and they clean the streets off, and I thought, okay, whatever, like that's a common thing. But then I thought I heard it again, and you don't hear them that close together generally. I don't know if they grid the streets or what they do. And so that caught my attention, but I didn't think anything of it. And then I started smelling something, and I was like, what is that? And so I was on the phone with my friend, and I'm walking through my house, like trying to find it. And I'm like, well, there's nothing. She's like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing. Like, maybe it's outside or something. And I walked past a staircase that led upstairs. And right as I passed it, all of the smoke, just like in a movie, came around and down straight towards me. Like, it was the most horrifying moment of my life. Like, it was insane.
Wow.
It was a whole thing. It was
a whole thing. Your friend on the phone, because you're like, holy cow, my house is on fire, and I guess I gotta go.
I screamed at her and hung up on her, and then I run up the stairs because you never think that's what it is. Like, you never think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a fan overheating? Like,
yeah.
You never think
like, can I fix this?
Yeah. Can I fix this? And so I could see it was in my son's room. Like, I could see a light, and he had like an iguana and different things. And I like opened the door to like go in there. And when I did, there was a backdraft, but I didn't understand backdrafts. And it like
did you not see the movie?
No. And it went out the windows, not at me, after like this pause that felt like it took a lifetime. And so the fire marshal was like, afterwards, I was explaining to him what happened, and he was like, "Have you ever seen the movie Backdraft?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "You never open doors." I'm like, "Well, I didn't know that." And he's like, "I have no idea why you're still here. Like, I don't know." So, my husband's like, when I was telling him what I had done, he's like, "Why did you do that?" I'm like, "I was gonna fix it." He's
I
like, "Really?"
know.
But I
Was it
think
the
that
iguana light? Did that do it?
no, it was an electrical. Our house was really old. It was like an historical kind of a home, and
Yeah.
it was in the wall. So
Oh. Well, I'm just glad you're here. I'm glad you're okay. Wow. I know
me
you did it. You
too.
were posting something and you had this big bookcase in the background, and I was like, did you have to buy all those books again?
Yeah, I did. I did. But I get sent a lot from my friends. I
Yeah.
have the best friends, and so I have very quickly have managed to create another book collection. So it all worked out. Like it's, you know, it all worked
I
out.
think it makes you stop and think how precious life is,
Yeah.
and what's really important. Stuff is just stuff.
Yeah.
And that's so easy for somebody to say that hasn't lost everything. But man, I mean, we've lost so many family members in the past few years that you just think, wow, I'm just so grateful for life, right?
I think that's what this year has taught us, right? Like, and every time I sit down to write, even on the days where I don't feel good or I'm overwhelmed or we have homework coming out of our years already, I think what a blessing it is to be here, and what a blessing it is to be able to write words that somebody's going to set somewhere across the world and read and spend a couple of hours with. Like, it's such a blessing. And I think that it really, this year has changed that for a lot of us. Like, we're a lot more aware of the good in life because we've all seen a lot of bad in different ways.
Yes, absolutely. So, what are you currently working on?
I just finished Resolution, which is
Okay.
Wade's book for the Mason family series. I am I'm getting ready to write Sweet, which is it's going to be another Landry book about.
Oh, so you're on a deadline.
I am on a deadline, yes.
Because that comes out December, right?
Yeah, for sure. And
December
then
30th.
I'm also working on a standalone that hasn't been announced yet. It's a small town vibe, which I love because I'm a small town girl.
Yes.
So it's a lot of fun.
That is nice. So, what advice do you have for aspiring writers?
Someone told me once really early to write what you know, which is one reason why I think I end up writing big families and small towns, because those are the two things that I know better really than anything. So I think that's a good piece of advice. And then another thing is always to follow your gut, which is something that I wasn't great at right from the beginning because there's a lot of noise in the book world. But I think that that's probably true in any community and in any in any field. But I think it's really important to trust your gut and to always, I feel like you have an innate ability to know what's good for you and what's good for your brand, and to follow that. Every morning when you get up, I always tell myself, I have to see the person in the mirror, no one else. So what's working for someone else may not work for me, or that doesn't mean that that's the decision I need to make. I need to make what works for me, what feels good to me, and what I can be proud of the next day. And so I think that if you do those things, I think you'll go the right way.
I love that. That's really good advice. I love the gut thing too, because like you said, there is a lot of noise. And there's a lot of noise in the reader world too. I think we're under this impression that I'll be honest with you, I never read a lot of romance until I started my show last summer. I read a lot of contemporary fiction. It's what I gravitated to. And then I started, getting interest in, I thought, well, I'm going to bring a wide variety to our show here. And I always thought, well, I read contemporary fiction because that's what I always see. That's what I knew. But don't be afraid to try something too as a reader. You may not have heard of someone and you may consider yourself maybe more of a fantasy reader or sci-fi. But then like one of my assistants, she reads a lot of sci-fi fantasy. And she's like, I've been helping you with your stuff and reading all these books too. And I'm like falling in love with this romance stuff. And I'm like, so don't be afraid to step outside of your zone too, and just, read wide. And
that's so true. I don't read fantasy. I read everything. I will literally read the instructions on how to make a cake, but I never really read fantasy. But Kyla Lindy, K.A. Lindy, writes YA fantasy. and I saw some like marketing material that she had out for the Ascension series, the first book, which was The Affiliate. And I was captivated by what I was seeing, like the imagery and the description. And I thought, I'm going to try that. It's completely not what I'm familiar with. I don't know what I'm getting into here, but I'm going to try it. And I fell so in love with those books. They are like they're like watching a movie. Like they're so amazing. And I never would have had that experience had I not tried a new thing. So I'm 100% with you.
That's one thing that I try to bring to this show is just a wide variety, because there's so much good stuff out there, and so much stuff that I personally, I feel like I look at my bookshelves behind me of all the different books I've read for the show, and I think, holy cow, I am so glad that I did that, because I got to just step into all these new worlds and learn more things. And, we can only do that by trying things we've never done before and like read and seen. And so, what are some books that you are reading right now?
I have not been reading the last week or so because I've been sort of transitioning into writing a new book. And so I always have to take like a mental break. I just read a book by Beverly Preston called Catching Ember. And it was so good. I mean, I literally, some days something will pop up and I'll think about them. It was amazing. I've not watched Yellowstone. I don't watch a lot of TV unless it's football, but I've seen enough trailers and people sharing and the memes and stuff that it really feels like a Yellowstone kind of vibe. And I am obsessed with it.
And what was it called again?
Catching Ember.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out, because I did love Yellowstone.
Oh, it's so good. But you have cowboys and you have this strong heroine and a little mystery that rides along with the story. Yeah. So good. Like, I can't wait for the next one. I actually was messaging her, fangirling when I finished it. I was on vacation in Florida and my family were like, we're going to the beach. And I'm like, I will see you when you return, because I'm not about to walk away from this book. It was so good.
Oh, so good. So you don't watch I always ask authors too, what are you watching and what are you reading? So you don't watch a lot of TV?
I don't watch a lot of TV. I'm not a big TV person. I'm excited for Cobra Kai to come back on Netflix. We watched that. And I'm excited for The Babysitter's Club because I watched that. Just for nostalgia.
Yep.
But I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch football. I love football.
Who's your NFL team?
I was a Patriots fan. I'm not a Patriots fan now, but I was more a Julian Edelman fan. He's sort of my crush. So now that he retired, I'm sort of just floating around. We live in Ohio, so I've kind of picked up the Browns, because I feel like you should like someone from your area. But I was a Dallas Cowboys fan when I was a little girl. They were my first team. I fell in love with Troy Aikman on a CMT commercial back in the early 90s. And so I always pull for the Cowboys.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting. So I did read that you listen to podcasts and stuff. What are some of your favorite podcasts?
I listen to No Smut Shaming. They are one of my favorites. They're so good. And I'm not big into true crime, but I just found one, and I don't even remember the name, but I literally found them the end of last week. But I've been listening to their stuff. It's like a true crime. It's like a husband and a wife, and she's sort of reading out the crime to her husband. It's really good. And I wish I had the name for you, but I stink. I don't know what it's called.
That's okay. You can always find good storyline ideas, I think, from things like that. There's another author I follow and we message back and forth, and she always posts the most radical storylines. And I always tell her that should be a book. She's like, right?
I make stuff up. I always think that I'll watch something on TV and I'm like, that's crazy. And then I'll write something. I'm like, no one will believe that. And it's not nearly as crazy as what I just saw on TV.
There's some crazy stuff. Yeah.
So crazy.
And I don't even watch a lot of news. It's just stuff that kind of gets through from time to time, or I see something on TikTok and I'm like, what? That's a thing? That's insane. Sure. Well, awesome. Where can we find you on social media to support you?
Well, obviously Amazon.
Yep.
And
Actually, everyone follow Adriana Locke on Amazon. The reason why a lot of people don't understand that really does help authors because she's a prolific writer and puts out a lot of great books. And if you miss out and don't follow one, sometimes you're like, oh man, she put like a bunch out and I missed out. And so you might miss out on sales. Sometimes authors have different sales of their ebooks and things like that. And so I know I've started following all my favorites, and I don't want to miss if they have a special sale on Kindle ebooks or anything like that. So that does really help. And also, you can pre-order her books down below. I have some of them pulled up here on the carousel. That does help her too, so she knows how to pre-order. So I don't know if you do that with yours, but I have all your books pulled up.
thank you so much.
Yeah. And are you on TikTok?
I have a TikTok account and I watch a lot of TikTok, but I don't make a lot of TikToks. I don't understand the editing part.
So I'm going to be really honest, and I have no shame. I've started paying my 12-year-old to help me learn TikTok. Maybe you have a kid that can do that for you too.
I should do that. I should make them work for their dinner. That's exactly what I
started doing. I'm like, you wanted some spending money? Now you're going to help me. So the TikTok I put up today, she made and showed me how to do it. And then I find another TikTok. I'm like, now show me how to make this one with my content. And so she's very patient, and she shows me, but she's got it down. It's like a kid thing. And it's like, once you turn 40, like all the wires are crisscrossed and we're like scrambled eggs over here. We don't know.
I don't understand Snapchat either. Like, it is, to me, I might as well be trying to speak Chinese. Like, I don't understand. And so my third son has been trying to get me to have a streak with him, which makes no sense to me. And so all I know is how to like send him a picture. He sends me one and I send him one back. And the other day he was like, you're not even on my best friends list because you don't send me one fast enough or something. And I'm like, I don't understand Snap Face. And he's like, I'm not even talking to you.
Oh my gosh, I always mess with my kids and I tell them, I don't have a tweeter. I don't know how to do that. I always just make up the names different and they're like, I can't with you.
Yeah, for sure. So I am on the TikTok, but I don't make a lot of them. I need to get better at
that. Okay, and then what is your Instagram handle so everyone can follow you there?
Author Adriana Locke. Instagram is probably my favorite.
Mine too.
I share a lot more about my actual life, I think, on there.
I always like it when you show pictures of your dogs too.
my pit bull mix, he is at the door right now, like giving me like puppy eyes and like hitting it with his nose. He wants in here, but I have to get him out.
He could be the star of the show. He could. And what's his full name? Isn't it
Prometheus?
Prometheus. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. That's funny. Yeah. I like, you could tell I like dogs. I'm always like, what is their dog's name? We have dogs in the neighborhood that come over to my house to find me. I'm known as the treat dealer in the neighborhood.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. I always have treats by the door.
Well, it could be worse things, to be known for in the neighborhood.
True. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Adriana. I love your books. Everyone check out her books down below in the carousel. She's got so many, and you can download them right now immediately and start reading and get started. And your productivity this week will be very low. So thank you so much. Go ahead and stand by, Adriana. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching.